Hello everyone and welcome back to the interview experience series. So today I'll be discussing about my interview experience with Shopee. It's actually been really long since I have uploaded a video on interview experience and this video was actually long overdue. So I interviewed with Shopee long back but I just did not get time to record and upload the experience. So I thought why not just record it and upload it now. So we will be following the old pattern and we'll discuss about the company, the application procedure and the interview process. And as usual, you will find the timestamps in the description. So feel free to navigate to relevant sections. Also, I would like to add one more thing. So very soon I'll be uploading a software engineering experience in Google, Amazon and Uber as well on this channel. So if these videos are relevant to you, you can consider subscribing to the channel. That would definitely help in increasing our reach and also you will be notified whenever a new video is uploaded. That being said, let's start with our discussion today. So we'll start by discussing a little about the company. So Shopee is actually an e-commerce company which is quite similar to Flipkart in its scale and operations. And if I'm correct, Shopee also came to India, but they closed their operations soon after. And I'm not sure if it is still operational or not. So you can probably Google about that. And when they hire engineers, they usually hire for their Singapore office. So why did I apply to Shopee? There's a very funny and weird Shopee ad starring Cristiano. You must check it out. It's on YouTube. And I thought if there's a company that can make Cristiano do such an ad, then it is definitely worth applying to this company. Just kidding. Actually, there was a sudden Shopee buzz, and everyone around me was interviewing for the company. So I thought I should also give it a try. And actually, Shopee was a little different from your conventional company in the sense that companies usually hire fresh grads for generic SWE role, but Shopee was hiring for very specific job descriptions like back end, front end, and data roles, and then DevOps and etc. So the roles were obviously being given based on your application. So for whatever role you have applied, you'll be considered for that role, and also they'll consider your resume. And in terms of compensation, they were offering something between 4,000 SGD to 5,000 SGD. And another thing different about the company was that they were open to salary negotiation. So you usually do not find companies open to negotiations with fresh grads. And most of the people were able to get a little higher than the offered salary, as the initially offered salary was a little lower than the usual salary in Singapore. So if you are applying, you must check the current pay parity between Singapore and India and negotiate accordingly. And one more thing I would like to add here is that my process happened when COVID was on peak. So there was a lot of confusion around whether the offer will be rescinded or whether the joining will be delayed because Singapore specifically had stopped immigration during that time. So I know that few offers were rescinded and some people joined really late, almost after an year. I obviously had no plans going to Singapore anyways, but if you are very keen on moving there, then please discuss everything clearly with your recruiter beforehand. Moving on the hiring process. So there are many ways you can apply for the hiring process. The recruiters are really active, so you can connect with them on LinkedIn or get their mail and shoot them a mail with your resume directly. So obviously the first step is LinkedIn and mail. Second is their careers portal. So you can go on their careers website and you can probably apply it there. And the third one, which is a little unconventional, is their hiring fair. So they have an event regularly, and this event is kind of like similar to a hiring fair, and you can apply an interview through this event, and they hire a lot of people during this time. So you generally receive an email notification every time they organize this fair, and the email looks something like this. Now you can apply for this alert as well through their careers website. So I'll just note down the third method. Yeah. Now, once you have applied, they go through your resume thoroughly. So, unlike most of the companies, they do check if your skills are in sync with the description and the requirements of the job that you have applied for. So, keep in mind that your resume should reflect that you are competent enough for the role you have applied for, and you should add all the relevant and necessary skills and projects to your resume. So, that would be a clear indicator that you are a good, suitable candidate for this role. Now, after this process, once your resume is shortlisted, they organize technical interviews. Now, you need to have very good preparation for the interviews because they'll not just ask DSA, but every round will have questions from DBMS, OS, and object oriented programming, networking, etc., along with the usual DSA questions. Also, Shopee is the only company that I've seen that asks proper system design questions in fresh grad interviews. Now, I don't know what level of answer are they expecting. Maybe they are expecting a very trivial design and not a very extensible or scalable or available solution like the one expected in interviews for senior roles. But one thing is confirmed that you might have to face a system design question. So I'm assuming that if you will be interviewing as a fresh grad, you would not have a lot of experience with low level design and high level design. So I'm dropping my go-to resource in the description. So you can use this resource for practicing and studying. These resources explain HLD and LLD in a very simple way or an understandable and concise manner. So you can probably go through these resources quickly. So I'll just note down the things: DSA, then your core CS, and third is your system design. So now I'll quickly discuss my interview experience. Now, I had three interview rounds, and which were all technical. And the round, as I mentioned above, were a mix of DSA and CS related questions. So in the first round, I was asked to find the frequency of an element in an unsorted array and then in a sorted array. And then I was asked to find the top k most frequent elements. So both the questions are pretty standard questions, and you can find the exact questions if you Google them. And then there were questions on differences between process and threads, indexing in DB, and multi attribute indexing. Also, there will be questions from your project, so be thorough with your resume. Do not mention anything you haven't actually done because that might cause an issue in your interviews. So in the next round, I was again asked standard DSA questions. So the first question was finding first missing integer, and the second question was finding the product of array except self. So both these questions are again standard questions, and if you Google the exact statements, you'll find the complete question on internet. And then I had to explain the flow between a user typing google.com in the browser and the web page coming up. So I had to explain when once you type the URL, then a request will be made. First, the request will be made to DNS, your IP will be resolved, then it will be sent to the server, then maybe some JavaScript will be loaded and all those things. So this is also a pretty standard question. You can find the complete process on internet and you can read about it. Then we had a discussion on auth, sign up, and login. So I had to design a database and some APIs for authentication, sign up, and login. We were discussing about user session token when the interviewer asked follow-ups on encryption and hashing, because for user session token you use these techniques. And as a follow-up, he also asked me to explain consistent hashing. So back then I had no clue what is consistent hashing, so I told him, and he was fine with it. Well, and actually, I don't know why he was expecting me to know consistent hashing. Now, the third round began with a discussion on my resume and projects. So it was a pretty detailed discussion, in fact. And then I had to design tiny URL. And the constraints I got were that my system should be able to handle 10,000 reads per second and 1,000 writes per second. Now, I don't exactly remember what solution I gave back then, but now that I look back, it seems that it is completely illogical to ask a fresher design a system with these constraints. To make a scalable and available system which can handle these constraints, you need to apply load balancing, sharding, and you need to use the primary secondary paradigm. And all these and expecting all these things from a fresher is not a logical expectation. And to be honest, if we leave the top three services for URL shortening, I don't think the remaining services would be getting such kind of loads even in real life. So, and specifically the write operations, because read can be easily handled. It is the write operation that causes the race condition related issues and are relatively slow. So, but anyways, the resources that I've shared in the description should prepare you for all these kinds of questions. So I think they have in the resource they have specifically discussed about this service as well. So go through them, and I think it should be helpful for you. So that's about it. I have shared everything that I knew, and I hope it was helpful. In case you still have questions, feel free to drop a comment in the comment section. So goodbye, friends. Stay safe and keep learning.